Hey guys, it's Benjamin and welcome to another lesson here at the Guide Plus. And today we're going to talk about penalties. So this lesson is going to cover the basics of shooting and saving penalties. Then I have two Jedi mind tricks up on my sleeve that I'm willing to share. They are very situational, but if the specific situation occurs, they work really well. And then I have one shooting technique for penalties, which works extremely well. Some consider it to be glitched, so they would not be really savable. I don't think so. I think they are savable, but still they work really well, and I'm going to talk about it in detail at the end of this lesson. Let's start with shooting penalties. And we're going to start with this picture right here, which is very important because it shows the changes to penalties in FC24. It shows the zones for the goalkeeper to save a ball. Now there are 5 zones. Before that, there were only 3. Left, right, center. So if it's just random, the chance for the goalkeeper to make the right decision for the save was 33%. Now we have 5 zones. We have the bottom, like the bottom left corner in blue and the bottom right corner in blue. We also have the top left corner in red and the top right corner in red. And then we have the center in green. And here it doesn't matter if it's high or low. And now with these 5 zones, there's a 20% chance, if it's just random, to save the penalty, which reduces the chance of saving penalties quite a lot. So it's much harder to save penalties, and you have to make the right read. And also as the goalkeeper, you have to make the right input. We will talk about this later on. And I start with that because this sets the foundation for penalty kick taking, also for shooting it, right? Not only for the goalkeeper, because now we have to consider as the player who shoots the penalty, if we go low or high, this actually matters because we have to make a read or an assessment what the opponent thinks where we're going to shoot. So this is the foundation. Also, the basic technique, I want to explain it quite briefly. We have this composure ring, this ring around the ball, which we try to hit when it's really low. It starts big, it gets smaller, and then our target is to press the shooting button when it's really small, because then we have a more powerful penalty, but also more accurate. And this is what we're going for. So I don't think it is as hard to hit it when it's small. I think this is like really comfortable to hit. And then the next step is like you start this process that the ring freezes with the power button. And then I like to power up my penalties quite a lot because I think it's just an advantage to go for powerful penalties because they are harder to save. And when you hit it quite small, and I think this is also like if you don't feel as comfortable hitting it, the composure ring, when it's as small, then you shouldn't power up as much, because this I feel like only works if you hit it right, because then you can put in more power without adding too much error to the penalty, because sometimes you will just hit the post or the crossbar because the error is too much, and sometimes you will miss the goal because of that. But if the composure ring is small, I like to go for really powerful penalties. Then, as you can see, I don't start aiming directly. The reason is I just want to see maybe what my opponent is doing, but most of the time I already made up my mind into which corner I want to shoot the penalty. But also, if I, for example, go to the lower side, I feel like if I start right away, there's too much time, because theoretically there is an invisible indicator that you start moving by pressing or flicking the right stick in a direction. And if you do it right early, you get this indicator really into the corner. And then I had it a few times that I missed I hit the post because of that. So I wait a little bit, and still it's enough time to get this invisible indicator to the corner. And in that case, I decided to shoot the penalty to the top right corner, and it was a really powerful penalty. And in that case, it went in because the goalkeeper went to the bottom right corner instead of going to the top right corner. So this would have been a penalty where I think in FIFA 23 it would have been saved because the goalkeeper was going to the right side, but now in FC 24 he was not choosing the right height for it. So this is quite nice. And now we have another situation, and here also like small composure ring. I don't try to hit it perfectly, but I feel really comfortable with a small composure ring. Quite a lot of power, and in that case I will go back when I start aiming. This is the case that I also wanted to make here. I wait a little bit, then I start aiming, And now, in that case, I think with this setup, here, I'm not quite sure about the input, I'm not quite sure what the opponent pressed, but I think with this input and the opponent not moving earlier, and if I aim really decisively into the corner, I hit a good composure ring, I have a lot of power, I feel like this is a good strategy to convert a lot of your headers. Obviously, it comes down to having the right read or making the right decision in which corner you want to shoot, avoiding the goalkeeper in that instance. But here, still, the opponent was in the right corner potentially. I still scored because I feel like it was a powerful penalty, it was very precise, and that's why I was able to score. So this is my strategy, my basic strategy when it comes to shooting penalties. Now we come to saving penalties. And obviously what I just talked about, now we reverse it and view it from the other side. And one thing is, what I like to do is just before the opponent hits the penalty, I already like to take 1 or 2 steps into the corner that I want to dive into. So this is going to increase the reach of the goalkeeper, I feel like. And also, I'm not trying to do it too early because otherwise you will give away in which corner you're going to dive. Obviously, you could use it to distract the opponent and to play mind games. But I like most of the time just made up my mind, make an assessment, make a guess where the opponent is shooting to. And then in order to increase the chance of saving that penalty, I like to take 1 or 2 steps earlier. I think here I could have been a little bit earlier as well, but I just also wanted to showcase this technique. So here I go to the bottom right, the opponent is shooting to the top right, so it went in. So in that case, I made up the wrong decision, it was the right corner, but not the right height, and I don't save it. So now we come to the next penalty, and here I want to illustrate also, I start moving before the opponent shoots the penalty. I think here now I already started the step. I think you can be a little bit more early because you cannot just, like, if the opponent sees that and tries to react to it, that's too late. He won't be able to change his corner anymore. So I think you can be earlier with that. Anyways, what I think I want to highlight here is that my input is not good. I just go to the right and you have to, as a goalkeeper, make up your mind. Do you save to the top corner or to the bottom corner? This is really bad input from my side. You don't want just go to the side. This is really crucial, and that's why it feels like, oh, I was so close. And if you have, like, if this feels like really familiar to you, that you go to the right side but don't save it, like, it's because your input most likely was not good. Really go decisively to the bottom or to the top and flick it like that. Like in that case, it was just to the side. I don't save it. Maybe potentially hurt my goalkeeper here at the post as well. So yeah, not a good penalty save attempt. Now I do it better. Early step to the side, clearer input to the bottom, and now I save it. So that's the difference. Really go for clear input. And by the way, my technique seems like to flick it several times. Not quite sure if that is necessary. This is how I used to. It works in those instances as you can see, but I wouldn't say like you have to do it like this, just to clarify that as well. And now we come to penalty mind games. And as I said, like some Jedi mind tricks, because obviously for penalties, you try to get into the head of the opponent and have the mind read where the opponent is shooting to or where he wants to save and all that stuff. And now I want to share 2 aspects. One is for saving penalties, the other one is for shooting. And as I said, it's very specific, very situational, because this is a read that I can get from my opponent when he or she has a penalty kick taker, which is good. Mbappé is good, but the opponent changes to Lewandowski, and he is a really good penalty kick taker. Famously, he is very powerful, very precise. He can shoot penalties really accurate. So now the mind games start, because my opponent tries to make me believe, oh, I switch to a player who is really good at penalties. I want to make use of that by shooting precisely to a corner. So for me, as the opponent, now I would think, oh, he wants to shoot precisely into a corner, so I pick a corner and try to save it there. But my opponent now thinks, okay, now he's trying to dive into a corner, I'm just going to shoot to the center. And this is a pattern which happens quite frequently. My opponent switches the penalty kick taker to a very good penalty kick taker. led me to believe, oh, I'm going to shoot into a corner to take advantage of those stats, of those attributes, and then he's just going straight. And I save quite a lot of penalties like this because of those mind games. And I don't think that my opponent is doing this on purpose, that he plans this ahead. It's just the moment. He has a good penalty kick taker and then switches to another one. And at that moment he feels like, oh, maybe now my opponent thinks I'm going to shoot into a corner to be as precise and take advantage of those stats. And then I just go straight. And you could say, yeah, well, this is just luck. Was just guessing right. But I feel like this is a pattern, like a thought process, which is happening for my opponent. And as I said, I don't think that they do it intentionally. It's just like that they, in the moment, feel like, oh, what other players do I have for penalties? Oh, this seems better. And then they think, hey, I can outsmart my opponent by giving them the feeling that I want to go really precise. So that's why I just stand straight. And one important aspect about saving those penalties for the center, some advice, in previous FIFAs, sometimes it was necessary to, if the opponent shot here in the center to the top, to also flick the right stick to the top like this to get the animation for the goalkeeper to save it. Otherwise, if you wouldn't have done that, it would have gone above the goalkeeper into the goal. But this is not the case anymore. So my advice is to not press anything with the sticks, because sometimes you will have the problem that you go a little bit to the side when you press up, to the left or to the right. It can be just a few degrees. And this is already enough for the goalkeeper to make a save to the side. And this happened to me quite a few times. And that's why I stopped pressing or flicking the right stick in those moments when I want to save in the center. And this works. Bang. And now you have, now we come to the fourth example. The opponent has a good penalty kick taker. He switches or she switches to another one who's decent. And as I said, they want to give me the feeling that they go for a corner, but they don't. Like, this is my first penalty mind game trick to save penalties. Now we come to shooting penalties. And you know those opponents. Right from the moment when you're on the spot, they start to go from left to right, and they just want to irritate you a little bit. And my feeling is, in those moments, that they want to make us unsecure in which corner we want to shoot. Because now he would think, oh, he stands to the left side, so he leaves this open, so I'm going to shoot to the top right or to the bottom right. Obviously, you could also think the other case, that he's going to leave that open on purpose and then he's going to the other side, so I'm going to shoot here and here. But then you see the opponent, he goes from left to right and just moving around. It's like he's offering me corners, but lets me to be insecure about, do I make the right choice or not? And they only do it with a purpose to make us unsecure, so we come to the decision to shoot it to the center. So they try to get us shooting to the center, and my experience is that, yeah, if you then decide to go for a corner, yeah, they will stand in the center and we can just score. So my advice is, if you have an opponent like this, look at this, left, right. In those situations, they want us to shoot into the center. So the only way how we're going to miss this is if we are shooting to the center. So just pick a corner and shoot. And I do that here to the bottom right. Opponent was standing in the center, even though he was moving left and right all the time. And that's how I scored here. And this is, by the way, now another penalty against the same opponent. And I think, yeah, he's doing it one more time. And I think at that point I should have reflected enough and say, okay, he failed with that once. Potentially he's going to go into the next step, and now he's going to commit to a corner, because here I go to the top right and he saves it. So it's not a guarantee that this works, but I just want to illustrate this thought process, what the opponents try to do, and also something which worked really frequently for me. If the opponent is really moving around on the line quite a lot, I think most often they will try to save it in the center. Now we come to the Panenka glitch. Yeah, it's not really a glitch from my opinion, but first of all, I'm going to explain the technique itself. It's called Panenka because there was a famous footballer, Panenka, who did a penalty like this. He chipped it into the center, and that's why every time you have a chipped penalty, it's called a Panenka penalty. And you do it by pressing L1 or LB while you power up, and then you have a lobbed or chipped penalty. So that's a Panenka penalty. And for this variant, you want to go for a chipped penalty, but then don't power up too much. I would say 30 to 40%. And now instead of going to the center or, for example, to the side just, here you want to aim to the bottom right, around here or here. So like these are the areas that you want to hit the penalty. That's why I really aim in this direction. Oh, this is way too large. So I want to aim in that direction, so the indicator moves slowly like this. I don't want to end up here, but this is the sweet spot, I would say. And the outcome, now you can see, is a low-powered penalty, and you would have the feeling that this should be savable for the goalkeeper, especially if he dives to the bottom right. Okay? But he doesn't. Like, for whatever reason, it seems like, and obviously, I don't know if the opponent did the right input. He moved before that. He goes to the corner. It looks like he went to the bottom right, but still didn't save it. I'm not quite sure what happened here because I don't know what the input of the opponent was. But this is a technique which works quite frequently. Here you have another example. Pressing L1, LB, and I hold it until the penalty is taken. Not as much power. Let's go back a little bit here. Oh, it's really not visible, but it's around here. So around here the power, so really low. Going to the bottom right, and bang. Opponent moved also a little bit before that, and it looks like he should saved it, but he didn't. And by the way, I want to give credit. This is a penalty technique which the coach Heufeld, he's a Finnish coach, he published that a few weeks ago, and I got it from him. So I'm going to link his Twitter profile also in this lesson to give him credit for that. He published that and made it quite well known. And I started using it quite recently. Here we have another example going to the bottom right. Opponent moved into this corner earlier. Obviously, in that moment, you feel like, oh, that was not the best decision to go for this penalty. But still, it went in. In that instance, I think you can see that the opponent went to the top right and not to the bottom. But still, it's an awkward feeling. But they go in quite frequently. I think I missed already like 1 or 2 instances, so it's not a guarantee, but I think it works quite well, and the opponent has to be really decisive, I feel like, with the input going to the bottom of the corners, as I explained earlier. I think this is the crucial part about it, and I think what is also cool about that this works quite a lot is that you can tilt your opponent quite a lot because they think the goalkeeper should have saved this, but the goalkeeper didn't, and now they are tilted. So this is, I think, a good side effect besides scoring like this, but also getting your opponent out of the comfort zone. So this is it from my side. I hope this was helpful with the basics, but also then some mind games and a really strong technique at the end. And I hope this helps you to win more penalty shootouts and also convert or save more penalties more often. Thanks for your attention. Keep a clean sheet. I'm out.